Right now, on a planet with roughly 8.5 million species of animal, you belong to the only one that does this. When you feel something too strongly, grief, love, rage, even joy, salt water leaks out of your face. Not because something got in your eye. Not because you're hurt. Because of a feeling. An emotion, invisible and weightless, somehow reaches into your body and squeezes liquid out of two small glands above your eyes. Think about how bizarre that actually is. No other creature on Earth weeps from emotion. Not dogs. Not chimps. Not elephants, despite the stories. They feel things. Fear, attachment, loss. But none of them cry about it. You do. You are the only animal whose sadness has a liquid. And here's the part nobody tells you. Science still cannot fully agree on why. We have mapped the human genome. We have photographed black holes. And we still argue about why you cried at a movie last week. Crying is one of the strangest, most uniquely human things you do, and it remains genuinely unexplained. So let's ask it directly. Why do we cry? Why would evolution, which is ruthless, which doesn't keep anything that doesn't earn its place, build an animal that springs a leak every time it feels overwhelmed? To get there, you first have to understand that not all tears are the same. Your eyes actually produce three completely different kinds of tears. The first are basal tears, the constant, invisible film that keeps your eyes from drying out. Every animal with eyes has these. The second are reflex tears, the ones that flood out when you chop an onion or get dust in your eye. Protective rinse. Animals have these too. But the third kind belongs to you alone. Emotional tears. Psychic tears. The ones that come not from your eye, but from your heart, for reasons that have nothing to do with protecting your vision. And here's the strange thing scientists discovered when they actually collected these different tears and analyzed them. They are not chemically the same. The tears you cry from grief are made of different stuff than the tears you cry from an onion. Hold on to that because it becomes important. Now, you would think a question this fundamental, why humans cry, would have been solved centuries ago. It wasn't. And the man who proves how hard this question is happens to be the most famous biologist who ever lived. In 1872, Charles Darwin published a book called The Expression of the Emotions in Man and Animals. This is the same Darwin who explained the origin of species, who cracked the deepest puzzle in all of biology. He turned that mind toward human tears. And he basically gave up. Darwin concluded that the shedding of emotional tears was, in his words, purposeless, an incidental byproduct, a kind of accidental overflow with no real function. The man who found the hidden logic behind beaks and bones and behavior looked at crying and shrugged. He couldn't find the point of it. For a long time, that was the scientific position. Tears were just spillage. A glitch. But a glitch doesn't usually have its own chemistry. And in the 1980s, a biochemist named William Fry decided to test something almost nobody had bothered to test. What is actually in an emotional tear? He collected tears from volunteers. Some crying over sad films, some crying from freshly cut onions, and compared them. What he found was striking. The emotional tears contained significantly more protein. And more than that, they were carrying specific things the onion tears weren't. Stress hormones, including one called ACTH, and traces of leucinenkephalin, a natural painkiller your body produces, a kind of internal opioid. Fry proposed something that, true or not, is a beautiful idea. That crying is the body's way of physically flushing out the chemicals that stress builds up. That when you cry, you are not just expressing pain, you are literally excreting it. Wringing the stress hormones out of your body drop by drop. It would explain that strange, washed-out, peaceful feeling that sometimes comes after a really hard cry. The feeling of being emptied. It's a lovely theory. It might even be partly right. But it doesn't explain the strangest fact about crying. The one that finally cracked the mystery open. And to see it, you have to ask a question Fry didn't. Why is crying so visible? Because here's the thing. If crying were just about flushing chemicals out of your body, it could happen invisibly, internally, like sweating out toxins. But it doesn't. Tears run down your face. They redden your eyes. They are advertised. Your body goes out of its way to make sure other people can see that you are crying. And evolution does not build expensive, conspicuous signals by accident. This is the insight at the center of the work of Ad Vingerhoets, a Dutch psychologist at Tilburg University who has spent his career studying tears, possibly the world's leading expert on human crying. And his answer flips the whole question around. Crying, he argues, is not primarily about you. It's about everyone around you. Think about what tears actually do to you in the moment. They blur your vision. They make it hard to see. They physically signal to anyone watching that you are, right now, in no state to fight, to flee, or to defend yourself. A crying person is a person announcing, loudly and helplessly, I cannot handle this. I am not a threat. I need you. And that, Vingerholtz argues, is the entire point. Tears are a social signal. A wordless flare sent up from one human to another that says come closer. Something is wrong. Help me. They are the most honest distress signal we have, precisely because they're so hard to fake and so disarming to see. When you see another person genuinely cry, something in you softens. Aggression drains away. You move toward them, not away. Tears don't just express pain. They transmit it from one person into the heart of another and pull that other person in. This is why we evolved to do it and other animals didn't. Humans survive by bonding, by caring for each other, by forming groups that protect the vulnerable. A baby that could signal distress, a friend who could signal grief, a person who could silently broadcast I am breaking and I need you. Those signals built the cooperation that kept our fragile, clawless, fangless species alive. Tears, in this view, are not weakness. They are one of the most sophisticated social technologies evolution ever produced. And it might go even deeper than what we can see. In 2011, researchers at the Weizmann Institute in Israel ran an experiment that sounds like science fiction. They collected emotional tears from women, and then had men simply smell them, with no idea what they were smelling. The men who breathed in the tears showed measurable drops in testosterone and reduced sexual arousal, compared to a control. The tears were carrying a chemical signal, silently, through the air. We may not just see each other's tears. On some level, we might be reading them chemically, in ways we're not even aware of. Now think back to the very beginning of your life. A human baby is born unable to walk, unable to speak, unable to do anything for itself except one thing: cry. Crying is the first language you ever spoke. Before any word, before any gesture, you had this. A signal that brought a giant, powerful creature rushing to your side to feed you, warm you, hold you. And here's a small, strange detail. Newborns cry without tears. For the first weeks of life, the wail comes but the eyes stay dry. The tears develop later, as if the system installs itself in stages. The signal that will follow you your entire life. The one you'll send at funerals and weddings and in the dark at 3 a.m. starts arriving only after you've already learned that crying brings someone running. We've understood the power of tears for so long that we built whole ideas around faking them. There's a phrase, crocodile tears, meaning false, performed sorrow. It comes from a medieval belief that crocodiles wept while devouring their prey, shedding fake tears over the very thing they were killing. The phrase survived for 700 years for one reason. Humans understood, instinctively, that real tears compel us. That a tear is a kind of proof, which is exactly why a faked one feels like such a betrayal. So let's go back to that washed-out, peaceful feeling after a good cry, because now it makes a different kind of sense. Part of it may be the chemistry Fry described, but part of it is something else entirely. When you cry and someone comes, when someone sees the signal and moves toward you, holds you, stays, your body shifts out of alarm and into calm. The relief of crying isn't only about emptying yourself of stress. It's about not being alone with it anymore. The tear did its job. It reached across the space between two people and brought one of them to the other. Which means we've been thinking about crying exactly backwards. We treat it as a breakdown, a loss of control, something to apologize for, to hide, to do quietly in a bathroom so no one sees. We say, I'm sorry, when we cry in front of people, as if we failed at something. But evolution didn't give us tears so we could fail privately. It gave us tears so we could reach each other. Crying isn't the moment you fall apart. It's the moment you signal, in the oldest language our species has, that you need to be held together by someone else. So here is what I want to leave you with. The next time you feel it coming, that heat behind your eyes, that tightness in your throat, that thing you've spent your whole life being told to swallow, remember what you're actually doing. You are doing something no other creature on this planet can do. You are taking a feeling so large it can't fit into words, and translating it into something another human being can see, and understand, and answer. Darwin thought tears were purposeless. He was looking for the wrong purpose. The purpose was never about the I. It was about the person across from you, watching the tears fall, already moving closer. Because in the end, that's the quiet truth about why we cry. We didn't evolve tears to deal with pain alone. We evolved them so we'd never have to.